Hi, this is Dan from userspice.com, and I wanted to do something a little bit differently. I wanted to do a little bit more of a free-form video showing you how to interact with the database. The biggest power of userspice and PHP in general is interacting with the database, but it can be a little tricky. So I want to walk through some of the things that I do all the time, just to show you. This is the basic userspice database. It has these tables in there. And so we're going to just look at a few different things and kind of show you what we can do. I'm on an install. It's actually a 4.2 install. It doesn't really matter. The class doesn't change very much. So let's get cracking at it. One of the things you'll do is write what they call a raw query. And so we're going to open up some PHP tags. I'll close my PHP tags. And then I'm going to just write a basic query. And let's just say users equals, we're going to call this users, DB query select star from users. Now, before we go any further, just to let you know, DB is automatically what they call instantiated in the header, which means that whenever you're in a userspice page, if you have this init included and if you have this header included, you have access to the database. And so you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do the DB get instance. I'll kind of show you that a little bit later. But basically, if you're in a typical userspice page, you have access to the database. So we're going to just save this for a second, and we're on index.php. And so maybe I can even snap left and snap right here. So if I go here, I just have a blank page. I don't have anything other than that because I haven't done anything with this information. I've said database, query the database, and ask for everything from users, but I haven't done anything with it. So there's some things you can do with it. Let's try this. So let's do count equals users, oops, I can't type today, count, and then this is a method, so we're going to put that there, and then we'll do echo count, which I'm really better than this. Okay, so now what's going to happen is I'm going to get 5, and if you'll see, if I come in here to the users, there's 5 of them in there. And the reason why that's important is a lot of times what you'll do is you don't want to do something if you got 0 back. So in other words, if I were writing a function or something like that and I got 0 users back, and then later on in the program I'm just assuming that I have users, then that would be bad. So what you could do is something like, from that point on, you could do if count is greater than 0, which again, I'm on video so I'm not typing very well. So if count is greater than 0, do something, okay? And so like I could even do echo, let's try this, we'll just do echo users found, okay? So now users are found, but if I were to say greater than 10, then it wouldn't say users found because I didn't have more than 10, I only had 5 of them. So getting the count doesn't seem like something you would care about a whole lot until you start seeing errors when you don't get the results that you expect. So getting the count is important, and so we'll just leave this count thing here, and let's go in here and we'll do this. So first equals users first. Now the first thing you should notice is that we called this query here users. And because we did that, we can use this in a lot of different ways. So I have count is users count, first is users first, and then let's just go ahead and do results equals users results. So we basically made this query one time, and now we're doing 3 different things with it. We're saying get everything from the users and tell me how many you got. Then we're saying give me everything from the users and show me the first one, and then give me everything from the users and list all the results. And so those are obviously going to give us different things. So let's just go ahead and use one of the built-in user spice functions called DND, which stands for dump and die. So I'm just going to do first and then hit a semicolon. So now what I'm going to get is when I do first, I have this object and it only has one user in there, but it has every single thing about that user. So in other words, and this is just one of the sample users, so I have the L name is user and the first name is admin. So you would think, well, why wouldn't you just automatically want all of them? And the main reason for it is that this is easier to interact with. You don't have to do a for each loop. And I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So let me show you this. So let's say that I want just this first user. And I want to say his first name and the number of times he logged in. Let's go echo. The first user is, and then we'll do some concatenation here, which is the bane of my existence. User, sorry, first, because we're getting that first user. So first, F name. Okay, we'll just stop right there, and we'll just do a semicolon. So let's look at what we got. So just to recap, if you want to see this object, we're going to dump, which is similar to dump and die, it just doesn't kill the page first. Okay, so if I refresh this page, you'll see that we have these things here. So this ID, email, username, password, these are the column names in here. So this ID, email, username, password, and so I'm seeing this object, and basically what I can do is I just call this and the column name. So if I want to say the first user is, and we'll go ahead and comment out this dump to make our page cleaner. So if I want to, I can save first user as admin, but I could also say email. I keep hitting the period. So the first user is userspicephp@gmail.com. Basically, all you have to do is call this and whatever column name you want. So I could do something like, you know, and their email address is, and then we're just going to put the period to concatenate, first email, and then we'll concatenate back on, and they have logged in, we'll concatenate again. So if I got everything right, so we can just put times. Okay, so the first user is admin and their email address is userspicephp@gmail.com, and they've logged in 0 times. And so basically it's super easy to have dynamic information coming from the database that way. If you know that you only need one, if you're calling something that there's only one of them, there's only one first user, or there's only one logged in user, or there's only one user whose profile you're viewing at that time, calling first is great because it gives you this nice, neat object. But sometimes you're going to want all of the information. And so you can delete this, and now we have this results. So I'm going to do D&D for dump and die results, and you're going to see I'm going to have a giant list of objects here. So I have array, and this is user 1, and this is all their information. And then I come down here, and this is user 2, and this is all their information. Then this is user 3, and this is their information. And so basically what happens is I have this object that has a whole bunch of different users in there. And so that can be cool if you want to make a table or if you want to get just all the information. So for example, I could do for each results as, we'll do R just to make it quick, and I can do echo, let's do this, there is a user called, and then we'll do dot. Now what we're doing, instead of doing first, because we're doing results as R, we're going to do as R and then fname, and then just for the heck of it, we'll concatenate on a break here. So now what's going to happen is it's going to go through all of these results that we got, which is all the users in the user table, which in this case there should be 5 of them. And they have first names. We'll scroll over, you'll see. They have first names of admin, user, user 2, user 3, user 4. And so we're going to go through all of the results that the database gave us and just echo those out. And so what you'll see, there's a user called admin, there's a user called user, user 2, user 3, user 4. So basically you have access to all of that stuff right there through a query. Now, basically when you look up, on the internet, you could see how to do an alter table query, so something like that. If you want to do something really weird like that or something kind of crazy, so you have this alter table. So basically what you could have is you could run any kind of raw query. Whenever you're looking at SQL type things, you can come up here and just do a DB query. You don't even have to assign it a variable. And you could say something like alter table users add column demo. And then you could put, and I'm not very good at this, you could put var car 255 or something like that. So we're going to try it. I'm going to run it. So if I come in there and run that, then nothing came up on the screen. But if I did it right, then I should be able to come in here and see that there is a table at the end called, or there's a column at the end called demo. So basically anything you can do in SQL for the most part, you can do using this DB query thing. So if you can't use one of the other fancy methods that I'm getting ready to show you, then this is the thing to do. So now let's get into some of the stuff that's a little bit more built in. Let's say that you want to insert something into the database. Let's say you want to insert a new user. So obviously the smart way to do that would be to go into the management stuff and actually come in here and add a new user. There's a tool to do that. But let's just say for some reason you wanted to add another column or another row to the users table. What you can do is I like to build this out as an old-fashioned big array. So let me just show you this. Let me show you how I do it. Okay, so I'm going to do fields. I'm going to assign it a variable, and then I'm going to do an array. And I know there's the newer way to do arrays, but this is how I like to do it because I think it looks nice and neat on here, and you know what's going on. So basically what you need to do is build an array of the column names and what you want to put in it. And so we'll give you a couple of examples. So let's say email, all right, you want to put this in quotes, I always do single quotes, and then you want to use this thing called a hash rocket, and then you want to put whatever you want to put in there. So let's say no way at AOL.com, as if anybody uses AOL.com anymore. And then let's put a comma because we're building an array. And then let's say that we want to give it a username. And let's say instead of giving it a username from here, we've already assigned that up here. So let's do this. Username equals Billy, Bob, Joe. Okay, like that. Then you can pass that in right here where the username equals whatever you had predefined as a username. And then or you can, and then so for, let's just do it this way, for, we'll just jump to the logins because that's a number. So I could do logins, and then because it's a number, I don't need the quotes, and I could do just 75. And then I always put the trailing comma there. You don't really have to on the last one, but that's fine. So now what we've done is we've built this array, and I'll just go ahead and show you. So D&D fields. So if you come to this page, you're going to see that we have this array that is built. Email, username, and notice that it has put in the actual thing there, and logins. So now let's say that you want to insert this into the database. if you want to do something with it later, you can assign it something like insert equals. You don't have to. You could just actually just pop it in there and go db insert, and then what it needs to know. And here's kind of your cheat sheet. If you actually open up the user class, so we'll go into users and classes. You can see here that the DB class has something called insert, and let's find it. Insert. So what it needs to know are is the table that you want to insert and your fields. Now you don't have to call it fields. I just happen to do it. So all you need to tell it is users is the name of the table, and I'm going to pass that array in there called fields. And if all goes well, when I refresh the page, we're going to have a new user in there, and that user has just the information that we passed in there. There it is. You can see the 75 logins and the email address and the username. So we've just done an insert query, and you'll do those a ton as you're inserting things into your database. Now let's say that we want to update that. We think, you know what, they changed their name from Billy Bob to Billy Bob Joe Smith. We had accidentally left off the Smith. Now you can either build this whole array out like this, and we could do that. We'll just go ahead and, in fact, we'll change that here. So we'll add the word Smith on the end. Okay, and now we'll get rid of the email because that doesn't matter. We're not changing that. We're not changing the logins, but we just want to change this username. So what you can do is db update, and then users, and it needs to know one more piece of information. It needs to know the ID of the row that it's updating. So we're going to put 22 in there. And so now it knows that it's going to change the username of number 22 from Billy Bob Joe to Billy Bob Joe Smith. So I saved it. I'm going to refresh the page, and it did not do it. So let's figure out what we did wrong. So users, Billy Bob Joe Smith. Yeah, oh, you know, I don't think I actually refreshed this. There you go. Billy Bob Joe Smith. So there it is. It's updated. I need to trust myself. It worked. So now you know how to do a raw query. You know how to insert information. You know how to update information. There are other methods in here for stuff like delete and all that, but I tend to like to really write those out. I don't know why. It just, I feel better doing something like, all right, let's do this. Because this is important. So I'll show you a delete query, and I'm going to show you about binding. So actually, let me show you a different thing first. So we'll keep that username there, and there's a technique called binding. And what's important about binding is when you search something, you want to make sure that somebody can't get up to any mischief. You want to make sure that they're only searching exactly where you want them to search. So we're going to do something. So we're going to do find Billy Q, and that's because it's a query. You don't have to. I just do. It reminds me what they are. So db query, and then select star from users where, oops, it should be lowercase, from users where username equals, and it's going to be so tempting to just do this, to just do that and call it a day. That is a very, very bad idea because of the mischief that somebody could get up to there. So you want to do what they call binding the variables. So what we're going to do is we are going to put a question mark here, and then we're going to create an array here, and even though it's just one thing, we're still going to put username in there. And so the reason for that is that you want to make sure that they're only searching this area, that they can't get up to any mischief. So now that's what they call bound to that particular spot in the query. It can only go to that column and only search that column. And so now we're going to do, we'll just do results equals, we'll do the whole thing. Results equals find Billy Q we'll do results. It doesn't really matter. So now we've done a query where we're only searching for Billy, whatever, and let's D&D results. So now we have this Billy Bob Joe Smith came up, and he's the only result. Now, you may think, well, that's kind of weird. How do we do, what if we have multiple things? So we could also do and where logins equals, and we'll do it as another variable just to pass another variable in there. So if you want to do a second one, all you do is just basically add it here. And you can keep going on there. You can make a huge array of those, and they just go in the order of the question mark. So we should have the same results because, you know, Billy has logins of 75. Now if I were to go in here and put 74, then that shouldn't work. Let's see here, save. Oh, maybe I don't need a where. That's my problem. So now I have nothing because I only wanted users where the user had that name and they had 75 logins. Now 74 logins, not there, but 75 logins, it's there. So anyway, you can pass an unlimited number of things in this way. If I'm going to do a delete query, I would do the exact same thing. I would say delete star from users where, and I would write it out just because I like to see the full thing written out. Now, so there's another thing that always trips people up when it comes to the database, and that is what happens if you have to insert things in multiple columns and you need to know information that you don't have. And I know it sounds kind of funny to say that, but let me give you an example. So I have this pages thing. This is part of UserSpice, and this page tomfoolery.php has been assigned the user ID of 29. And so when I want to, this information has to be in multiple columns. It needs to be in this pages. So this page has an ID of 99 and it's private, but then it needs to also be in page permission matches. And so if I come down here, I can see that page 29 is here. And so how would I know to put 29 in here if when I insert it, I don't know what ID I'm getting back? And so what we'll do is we'll just write this out. So let's think through this here. So I'm going to show you the quick way to do an insert. No, actually we'll just do it this way. All right, so fields equals, and then we have these. The ID is automatically generated, so we're not worried about that. We just need page and private. So array and we're going to do page, and let's say we're just going to make up a new page. Users demo page.php, comma, and then private. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to insert that, and we'll give it a name. Ins equals db insert, and then we're going to insert that into the pages table, and we're going to insert the fields that we just did. So if you see, we're going to do this one time, and we're just going to stick one in there to test. So you don't see anything back because we didn't ask for anything back. And we have, if you go to pages, you have this 30 demo page.php. So now that was assigned ID 30, but you didn't know that here. That could have been 300, 3,000, 3 million. You'd have no way of telling what this was going to be. So we're going to make another one, and we're going to call it demo page 2. And we are going to do this. We're going to do last ID equals db last ID, like this. And so what this is doing is when it inserts this, the very next thing it's going to do is tell us what ID it gave it, so that we can do this. We can come over here to this page permission page matches, and we can insert it properly. So let's say that we want to, just to show you real quick, this ID doesn't really matter to us at all, but this one does. This is the permission level. So if you come in here and look at this, and there's this many permission levels, permission 2 is administrator. And so when we come back here, this page, page 29, can only be viewed by an administrator. So we're going to do this. So we're going to make another set of fields. We'll just call it fields 2 to distinguish, equals array. And then we want to put in the permission ID of 2, just so only an administrator could view this page. And then we want to put in that last ID. So page ID last ID. So if we did everything right, then what will happen is in one fell swoop, we will insert this page, demo page 2. We're going to call it private. We're going to get that information back. We're going to find out what that ID was, and then we're going to put this in another table, and it's automatically going to have the right ID there. So we're going to put our semicolon here. You thought I was going to forget that. And then DB insert, and then this table here is called permission page matches. And then we're going to do fields 2. So now let's go for it. So we have, let me get to the home page, and bam, it should have inserted. So now we'll look, if we look at pages, we have demo page 2, which is ID of 31, and we marked it private. Then we come to permission page matches, and it's already in here. The right ID is there because we were able to use this last ID function. So that's, I would say that's the gist of the stuff you need to know how to use the database. You learned a lot of advanced stuff in there, and so I think that should get you going. If you have any questions, feel free to visit the forums. I love helping people. And yeah, thanks for spending your time with me.